Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending the virtual college workshop. And I do want to point out that in the YouTube channel there is a chat feature. Okay. So in the YouTube page is a chat feature. If you have any questions, please type those in there. I'll be happy to answer as many as I can at the end of today's presentation. So let's get started. And here we go. Again, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Thank you. Okay. So I like to call this talk, "You Don't Know What You Don't Know About College, but What You Really Need to Know." And I'm going to ask a lot of questions and answer a lot of questions tonight. And I'm also going to answer a lot of questions that you've never thought of or maybe even never considered. So the first thing that we want to talk about and touch on is the college ranking system. And you've probably seen half a dozen or a dozen different publications that rank colleges. And the most prevalent one is U.S. News Best Colleges Edition. Forbes has one, People Magazine, Money Magazine, etc. There's a half a dozen or a dozen different rankings. And here's an example of some of the things that are ranked. Student selectivity, faculty resources, etc. The one that I think is kind of odd on this one is peer assessment at 25%. What peer assessment means is if you vote for me, then I'll vote for you, kind of a thing. So these are just some of the areas that are ranked. Have you asked yourself, why would a college give out scholarships? Is it because they're generous and kind? Or is it because they want or need a specific student? So colleges ask this question of every applicant. How will this student impact our rankings? Will this student impact our rankings positive, neutral, or negative? If it's a negative, then they are going to reject that student. If it's neutral, well, maybe we'll admit the student, and if we do admit the student, maybe we'll give them $1 in scholarships, or maybe not. If it's positive, that college is going to do whatever they can to admit that student, and they're going to offer incentives, and those incentives are scholarships. So when a college identifies a student that they want, that will increase their rankings in one or more category, the college will do whatever they can to recruit that student. So let's talk about some acronyms. The first acronym is COA, or cost of attendance. And the cost of attendance incorporates everything. That is tuition, fees, books, lab fees, student ID card, parking pass, meal plan, dorm room, everything. We want to know what that total number is, and that's what our total cost of attendance is. Currently, ASU is hovering around the $30,000 a year mark. Okay. Again, if you have questions, please do put them in the chat feature. And yes, hello, Stacy. If you haven't visited some colleges, I would really encourage you to go visit some colleges. And there's 3 colleges in our neighborhood here in the greater Maricopa County. Those colleges are ASU, Grand Canyon, and Arizona Christian University. The reason why I want you to visit those 3 colleges is there are 3 very different types of colleges. The first one, ASU, is a large public college. The second one is Grand Canyon University, which is a mid-sized private university. And the last one is Arizona Christian University. Again, I want you to go visit those 3 schools because it'll give you an idea of the different types of colleges that are out there. The other reason why I want you to visit these colleges is it's not a big time or money commitment to visit any of these colleges. Maybe 45-minute drive to any one of these campuses, and then an hour or two on the tour. So that when you do go out of town, out of state, and visit some colleges, now you've got something you can weigh, balance, compare, and contrast. When my daughter and I were looking at colleges, I've got 3 kids, and all 3 of them are done with college. So yes, you can make it. But when my daughter, Ellie, was looking at colleges, we did a road trip. We drove up to Pacific Lutheran University up in the Seattle-Tacoma area and went on the tour there. We went on the tour, and the tour guide walked us around and said, here's our dorms, here's our cafeteria, here's our science building. It's awesome. It's made out of recycled material. It's all green, solar panels and all that. And we were kind of impressed. Wow. Then we went down to visit Willamette University in Salem, Oregon, and went on the tour, and the tour guide walked us around again and said the same thing. Here's our dorm, here's the cafeteria, here's our science building, solar, green, and we're like, okay, we just heard that at the last campus tour. And then we drove down to University of the Pacific in Stockton, California, and had the same conversation there. Solar panels, green, science building, and we're like, okay, cross that off as being unique and different. We can focus on the specialities of each of these colleges. So again, I want you to visit the colleges in state because it's not a big time or money commitment, so that when you do go out of town, you can compare and contrast some of these other colleges. So we talked about ASU having a sticker price of about $30,000. What if your student wants to go to an out-of-state or a private college? Anybody want to guess on what that cost is? And one of the areas that is ranked is most expensive college, which I think is kind of a silly thing to rank, but okay. And Sarah Lawrence University has a sticker price of $75,740 for 1 year. And then Stanford has a sticker price of $75,470, which makes UCLA at $63,500 their out-of-state cost. That makes it look like a bargain at that particular college. Okay, so when we're looking at colleges, we want to ask that price. What is the sticker price of each of these colleges? What is the COA, the cost of attendance? Now, if you really want to scare yourself, do this. Go to the college's website, and in the search bar, type in cost of attendance. It'll bring you to that page, and then here's how you'll scare yourself. You'll take that number, and then you'll multiply it times 4 years. And then you'll multiply it again times the number of kids you've got. And how many kids do you have? 2 kids, 3 kids, etc. And that's enough to give anybody a coronary right there. And have you asked yourself, how are you going to be able to afford that? How are you going to pay for it? And I've talked to literally hundreds of different families, and these are some of the ideas that they've told me as ways to pay for college. And these might be some things that you might be thinking about as well. And always the first one that comes up is private scholarships. My kid's going to get a private scholarship. So let's put a definition on what private scholarship is. That's a scholarship that your student applies for and wins. So if your student receives a letter or an email that says, congratulations, you've won a scholarship, and they haven't applied for it, it's probably a scam, especially if that letter says mail us $100 and we'll tell you which one you've won. Okay, so that's the first thing, is they have to apply for it. Okay, and if they win that private scholarship, then it's portable at any of the colleges that they're going to apply to. Okay. versus if they won the Wildcat Scholarship at U of A, that's only usable at U of A. But if they got a private scholarship, they could take it up to NAU, they could take it over to Texas Christian University, they could take it anywhere, and it's portable. Now, of the $135 billion, that's with a B, $135 billion of financial aid that's available, less than 2% of that consists of private scholarships. So everybody wants to go after these over this 2%, which is just such a small number. We want to go after the lion's share. And the lion's share is going to be in these three categories. The first category is going to be in federal funds. The second one is going to be in state funds. And then the third one, which is the big kahuna of the three, and that is the college's endowment funds. And there are some colleges that are rich, and then there are other colleges that are just uber rich. Harvard claims the #1 spot as being the wealthiest college, and last time I looked, their endowment was hovering around $38 billion. What that translates to is the interest that account produces is enough to give every student that they admit to Harvard a 100% full ride. Now, do they do that? Absolutely not. Okay? So private scholarships are the first things that parents have told me as a way to pay for college. The second one that always follows that in tandem is, well, my kid is an athlete, my kid's going to get an athletic scholarship. So let's talk about athletic scholarships for a moment. If you go to the NCAA's website, you can look up the average men's baseball scholarship, which is about $5,000. That's way short of the total cost of attendance. I'm not going to say no to $5,000, but where's the other $25,000 or the other $65,000, $70,000 going to come from? Okay. Now, I'm sorry to tell you this, that unless your student is the next NFL, the next NBA, or the next Olympian, the likelihood of getting a full athletic ride probably not going to happen. So private scholarships and athletic scholarships, and the next way that parents have told me as a way to pay for college is we've saved some money. Now, I read a statistic that the average family has saved $10,000 to apply for college. If you that $10,000, how are we going to make that $10,000 go where $100,000 should? Now, if you save more than that, then God bless you, you're better than the average. Now the question is, the money that you have saved, how is the financial aid system going to look at that? And there are three buckets of money. The first bucket of money is money that's in the student's name, and that gets assessed at the highest percentage, anywhere from 20 to 50%. Okay? The second bucket of money is money that's in the parent's name, and that gets assessed at a lower percentage, anywhere from 5 to 15%. So depending on who the owner of the product is, will determine how financial aid is looking at that. So sometimes just by moving money around from one owner to the other owner, the student is not the owner, the parent is the owner of this financial product. Sometimes we can qualify for more need-based aid. And then there is a third bucket, and that third bucket is money that's in the retirement system, and that has an umbrella over it, a retirement umbrella, and that is sheltered from the financial aid system, so that has zero impact on need-based aid. But JD, we have a 529. What about that? Well, 529s are considered an asset of the parent. However, as soon as we expose to the college, hey, I've got a 529, they're going to say, that's my money, I want it, and they're going to split it into quarters. We want 25% the freshman year, 25% the sophomore year, etc., etc. So, again, sometimes by moving money around from the student to the parent as the owner, or from one financial product to another financial product, we could qualify for more need-based aid. Here's my disclaimer on that. Before you move money around or any of that stuff, you need to know what the ramifications are, both positive and negative. Sometimes it's smart to move money around, sometimes it's not. Each family and each student situation is unique and needs to be addressed individually. If you do have a 529 and you have some questions on that, please do talk to me offline. I'll be happy to answer some questions about that stuff. Also, at the end of today's presentation, I will be offering a free consultation to talk about your family-specific situation. Again, if you have a 529, I'd be happy to talk about that in the free consultation. The next strategy that parents have told me as a way to pay for college is we're going to pay as we go. You can go to the college's website again, and in the search bar, type in cost of attendance, and that's what your cost is for 1 year, and then take that number and divide it by 12 months, or in most cases, divide it in 10 months, and that's what your monthly cost would be for that particular college. Okay. Typically, most colleges do not have a payment plan. Again, typically they're going to want you to pay a full semester or an entire year up front. Now, granted, there are some colleges that do have payment plans. For example, La Sierra University in Riverside, California, the last time I looked at that, they had a payment plan and it was $75 a month on top of whatever the payment was. I was looking at another college with another family, and to sign up for their payment plan, it was $400, and then whatever the monthly was going on after that. Again, typically most colleges are going to want a full semester up front. The next strategy that parents have told me as a way to pay for college is we're going to borrow the money. And there's a loan out there called the PLUS loan, P-L-U-S, and it stands for Parent Loan of Undergraduate Students. And theoretically, if your student was admitted to Sarah Lawrence University and did not receive any scholarships at all, theoretically that college could offer the parents a Parent Plus loan for $75,000 for 1 year of college. Now, please don't do that. I just want to tell you what some colleges may do. I had a family who came in for the free consultation because they were looking at their award letter and they wanted to know what the heck it was they were about to sign for. Now, when your student applies to college, several things will happen. The first thing that will happen is that your student will get a letter from the college that says you are admitted or not. And sometimes the admitted letter says, hey, congratulations to the freshman class, you're admitted, congratulations, etc., etc. We're going to give you $1,000 in scholarships or $5,000 in scholarships. That's the acceptance letter. And the acceptance letter isn't always the bottom line. The second letter is called the award letter, and the award letter may come 2 weeks, 2 months, or maybe even longer after the acceptance letter. And the award letter is like an invoice. It's going to list on there everything that the college is offering. We're giving the student these scholarships, we're giving the student this grant. Oh yeah, we'll give them an allowance for an iPad or a laptop, and here's a work study, and here's some loans that are being offered as well. Okay? So this family, let me go back to the award letter for just a brief second and the acceptance letter. The reason why colleges send the acceptance letter and then space it out 2 weeks, 2 months or more with sending out the award letter is because they want the student to buy in emotionally. Hey, you got admitted. And then 2 weeks or 2 months later, the parents and the student receive the award letter, the award package, and go, holy cow, that's really expensive. But since the student bought in emotionally, it's really hard as a parent to say no. Again, I have 3 kids, and as a parent, I would do whatever I can to help my students, help my kids. Okay, so going back to my story, had a family who came in for the complimentary consultation, and they wanted to know what the heck they were about to sign for, because on the award letter it said PLUS $25,000, and they were really excited. They were saying, yes, we got a $25,000 scholarship, hooray! And I said, I'm sorry, that is not free money, that's a loan. So they had 3 realizations. The first realization was, this is a loan, we've got to pay it back. That was their first realization. The second realization was, this is a loan, we've got to pay it back now. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that student loans are deferred as long as the student remains in college. And yes, that is true for the student loans. The Parent Plus loan is due 30 to 60 days after disbursement. So if your student starts college in August or September, then in October, November, December, somewhere in that time frame, they're going to ask for their first payment. So that was their second realization. We got to pay it back now. Their third realization was, yeah, it's $525 a month, and we can afford that on our income now, but that's just for his freshman year. If we follow this path and take out a second plus loan for his sophomore year, those loans stack. Now it's $525 a month for his freshman year, and then an additional $525 the sophomore year. Add those together, that's $1,000. Do that again the junior year, we're looking at $1,500. Do that again the senior year, now you're looking at over $2,000 a month. And that's just one of their 3 kids, and they're like, how in the world are we going to be able to afford that? And I'm happy to report they did not go that route. In fact, if you go to my website, azcollegeplanning.com, and click on the testimonials, you can see exactly what Denise said. We got all 3 kids done with college, and Denise wrote a nice little testimonial in there that her daughter Courtney graduated from college. She graduated from a private college, and the student graduated 100% debt-free, and the parents didn't take out any educational debt as well. So that's exactly where we want our students to start their lives, without that excessive student loan baggage. Okay. Colleges are very excited and very eager to offer these loans because they know they're going to get paid. The next strategy as a way to pay for college is use your homework line of credit. We won't go into details on that, but I just wanted to bring that up. You guys all know how equity works and all that stuff. And the last one is liquidate retirement accounts. Please don't do that, but I want to tell you what some families are thinking. So let's create a scenario here where we've got a family of 4, and they make $75,000 a year, and their student applied to a college that costs $50,000 and got a half scholarship, so got $25,000 to go to this college. And they're looking at it going, you know what, we've got money in our 401k, let's pull that money out. And you're probably already aware that if you're under age 59 and a half, you're going to get hit with those extra taxes and penalties. We know that one, okay? But there's actually 2 whammies on this one. The first one we just talked about, if you're under age 59 and a half, you get hit with those extra taxes and penalties. The second whammy actually hits them the next year, because that $25,000 that they took out is now considered income. And at $75,000 of income, they qualified for this much aid. And if we take out that $25,000, now they're not at 75, now they're at $100,000, and they're going to actually qualify for less aid the next year. So again, before you move money around or any of that stuff, you need to know what the ramifications are, both positive and negative. Sometimes it's smart to move money around, sometimes it's not. Okay? And I always say, don't throw out the college based solely on the sticker price. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But do ask yourself, how are you going to pay for it? And that's one area that we do specialize in, is helping students maximize scholarships and grants so that your out-of-pocket net cost is less. That's pretty much the end of the depressing portion of tonight. I tell you, it's not to give you a heart attack. It's a reality check. We know that college is expensive, and we've seen some of the statistics that colleges have. For example, one of the statistics is if a student has a college degree, they're likely to make $1 million more over their work lifetime than their high school counterparts. If you do the math on that, that's about a $40,000 a year difference. Okay, so let's talk about another acronym. The first acronym was COA, cost of attendance. The next one is EFC, expected family contribution. And the EFC, the expected family contribution, is a number that's calculated using the FAFSA form. We'll talk about the two financial aid forms in just a second. That EFC is kind of like a starting point for qualifying for need-based aid. It's kind of like this, that if, God forbid, you were in a car accident, before the insurance company pays to repair or replace your vehicle, you have to come up with that deductible number first. Correct? Yes. The EFC, the expected family contribution, is similar in nature. Before the college offers any type of need-based aid, that family is going to have to come up with that EFC number, that expected family contribution amount first. So there's two main financial aid forms. The first one is the FAFSA form. Please write it down as you see it there, fafsa.ed.gov. If you go to the internet and type in financial aid for college or FAFSA, please don't click on the first one, because they're going to ask you all the same questions that are on the FAFSA form, and then they're going to ask you, would you like us to submit this on your behalf? What's your credit card number? And then they charge you anywhere from $75 to $130 to do that. If you go to the correct website, fafsa.ed.gov, there is no charge to submit this financial aid form, hence the name, Free Application for Federal Student Aid. The second form is called the CSS Profile. And the CSS Profile is administered by College Board. College Board, they are the same entity that make the SAT test, PSAT, CLEP tests, AP tests, and a few other things. The primary differences between the FAFSA and the CSS Profile is that the FAFSA is a static form. Colleges cannot add or subtract questions from the FAFSA form. The CSS Profile asks all the same questions that are on the FAFSA form, and then in the supplemental section, colleges can ask whatever question that they want. For example, in the supplemental section on the CSS Profile for MIT, one of the questions that they ask is, what's your kid's cell phone number? Well, now I have a conspiracy theory for that. Why do you want to know my kid's cell phone number on a financial aid form? Another question that I've seen as a supplemental question on there is, what's the make, model, and year of your vehicles? Well, JD, why are they asking me that question? Because if a family claims that they have a 2020 Bentley and their adjusted gross income is $45,000, those two things don't match, and they're going to start asking more questions than that. The other primary difference between the CSS and the FAFSA is the FAFSA, there's no charge to submit it. the CSS profile, it's $25 for the first college and $16 for each additional college. So if your student is applying to 3 colleges that utilize the CSS profile, it's going to be $57 to submit that financial aid form to those 3 colleges. Now, I've heard this one, JD, we make way too much money to qualify for any need-based aid. Why should we even submit those financial aid forms? Well, because it's part of the game. It's part of the dance. I had a conversation with a dad, and just to give you a little bit of background, and his demographic is very wealthy family. Dad made $1.5 million a year. He had $2 or $3 million in his checking account. He had another $5 or $6 million in a brokerage account, and then he owned several multi-million-dollar homes that had no mortgage on them. So just a very wealthy family in that. Okay. So he says, JD, why should we do this? And I said, it's part of the game. Let's submit it. And one of the colleges that this student John applied to was George Washington University, or I can't remember if it was George Washington University or Georgetown University, one of the 2 George schools in DC, which is predominantly a need-based aid only school. What that means is that if the student applies to that college and that college determines that that student has no financial need at all, then it's going to be expensive for that student to go to that college. And that was the case in John and his parents. However, so let's play the game and all that. And theoretically, John should not have been offered any financial aid at all. The short story of it is that this particular college looked at John and says, yes, we want this student to come to our college. We need him to come to our college because he will make a positive impact on our rankings. So let's admit him, and let's give him a couple dollars in scholarship. And they ended up giving him, I think it was about $30,000 in scholarships. Because they looked at John and says, yes, we want him, but we also want Dad, because Dad might be a future donor. So again, we want to play the game and all that stuff. Typically, it's the more elite colleges that require the CSS profile in addition to the FAFSA form. And then there are some colleges that that require the FAFSA form and their own proprietary form. So we want to find out which financial aid forms each of these colleges the students are going to be applying to and what they require. Because if the student applies to a college and they're asking for a specific form or specific information, and the student and the parents do not submit that to that college, then there's a probability that that student will be rejected at that college. I won't tell you the name of the college, I'll just give you their initials, USC. They're notorious for doing that. They require the FAFSA form and the CSS profile. They want both financial aid forms. The reason why USC is asking for those forms is because they want to know, if we admit you, can your parents pay? So again, we want to play the game and supply them with whatever information that they want. Moving on, there are 3 questions that you've got to ask every college. And the first question is, how much need will you meet? So as an example, we've got the cost of attendance being $42,000. We've got an EFC of $20,000. We have a need of $22,000. So the question is, of the need that we qualify for, what percentage of that, how much of that are they going to actually give us? So I like to do simple numbers. We'll say that the cost of attendance is $30,000. Let's also assume that the family's EFC is $10,000. Now that's the only variable in tonight's presentation, is I don't know what everybody's EFC is, their expected family contribution, but I do have a fantastic calculator where we can plug in your numbers and and estimate what your EFC is going to look like. And by doing that early enough, we can manipulate the data so that we can qualify for more financial aid. And there's legal and ethical ways to do that. So again, here's our formula. It's COA minus EFC equals need. And again, simple numbers. The cost of attendance is $30,000. Our EFC is $10,000. We have a need of $20,000. Of this $20,000 that we qualify for, what percentage of that are they going to give us? And in my example, I'm going to say that they're going to meet 75%. So 75% of the $20,000, if we subtract those two, it's $15,000 that they're going to give us, which leaves us what's called an unmet need of $5,000. Now again, going back to my example at the very beginning, or my statement, how do colleges look at a student and what questions do they ask? How is this student going to impact our rankings, positive, neutral, or negative? If it's neutral, then the college may gap. And gap means that it's just going to cost more for that student to go to that college. They'll have the scholarships versus the total cost of attendance, that gap might be bigger for students that have a neutral impact on their rankings. I've seen several students, because I've been doing this now for almost 14 years, I see a lot of students apply to the same college that have very similar financial numbers, and one might be offered a really good scholarship package at this college, where a second student who should theoretically be offered the same aid package but get a lesser package, just because they want a particular student more than another one. And that's something that we can help you with, is showing you how to properly market yourselves to these colleges, so those colleges tag you and say, yes, we need you to come to our college. And we'll incentivize it by giving you a great scholarship package. So the first question is, how much need will you meet? So our EFC is $10,000. Our unmet need is $5,000. So a potential net cost is going to be $15,000. Again, this is usually where the parents pay the unmet need, or they might even take out a loan on those things. So that's the first question. The second question is, of the money that we qualify for, how much will be gift aid and how much will be self-help? And gift aid is scholarships and grants. We want lots of that, okay? And self-help is loans and work study. And all y'all know what loans are. Work study is where the student works for the college or one of the college entities, and they get a paycheck. I had a conversation with my oldest daughter when she was a sophomore in college, and it was about this time, about October. She called me on the phone and says, "Dad, I applied for a work study job." I'm like, "Awesome." A couple weeks later, she called me up and says, "Dad, I got that work study job." "Cool. What is it?" There was silence on the phone for a brief moment, and she said, "Campus security." "Awesome. Tell me you got the suite hours." Yes. She got the 11 p.m. to the 3 a.m. shift. Okay. My middle daughter, she was sitting in her theater class, in one of her theater classes, and the professor said, "Does anybody know how to sew?" And she kind of reluctantly raised her hand and said, "I hemmed a pair of pants once." And the professor said, "Congratulations, you are our new seamstress and costume designer." And she learned a ton that year. And at the end of that semester, I asked her to make my Comic-Con costume, and it turned out fabulous, by the way. Okay, so 3 questions. Second question, how much will be gift aid? How much will be self-help? And let's go back to our scenario where they're going to give us $15,000 of aid where we qualified for 20. They're not going to give us the whole amount. They're only going to give us 15. Some colleges are very generous and they'll meet 100% of your needs. Some colleges not so generous, might be 30% or 50%. And again, in my scenario here, in my example, I'm just saying that it's it's 75%, which is 15,000 of the 20,000 that we qualify for. Of that 15,000 that they're going to actually give us, what's the split on it? And for simple numbers, let's say the split is 50-50. 50% will be gift aid and 50% will be self-help. Every college will notify the IRS. You can go to the IRS's website, nces.edu.gov/college navigator, and check out all the different historical giving patterns at each of these different colleges and see what percentage these schools offer and all that. In a couple slides, we're going to go over a very real scenario. We're going to name two colleges and compare those two numbers. So first question, how much need will we get? Second question, what's the split? And the third question, which is probably the most important of the three questions, and that is, what is the average timeline for students to graduate from your college? How long is it going to take my student to graduate from your college? If you go to my website, azcollegeplanning.com, if you're on the desktop, there's a button on the right-hand side that says college results. Click on that button and type in the name of the college. It'll give you this information. If you're on a mobile device, you click on one of the drop-downs and it's in there. And this one happens to be NAU. And it says that the 4-year graduation rate at Northern Arizona University is 36.3%. And the 6-year graduation rate is 53.3%. Why is it taking these students so long to graduate from college? One of the reasons is they're applying for a class, especially at the large colleges, the large universities. They're applying for a class. I need to get into this 200 class before I can get into this 300 class. And that 200 class is full, but that class is only offered once a semester. Now I have to wait an entire cycle before I can even try and get into that class again the next year. So that's one reason. But the most prevalent reason is because this week I'm a biology major. Next week I am a business major. Psychology, that sounds cool. Oh, philosophy. I love philosophy. Well, I'll be a philosophy major. Every time a student changes majors, that pushes the graduation window out further and further. So one of the things that we do at AZ College Planning is we help students identify careers first, then the major that supports that career, and then identify the colleges that have that program and that major. By helping students identify and research careers and majors while they're still in high school, it's going to accelerate the graduation timeline when they go away to college. The number one reason why it takes students to graduate, why it takes the average student, please don't be average, the number one reason why it takes the average college student 6 years to graduate is because they flip-flop between majors. Again, this is one area where we specialize. We can help students identify careers and majors. We have a fantastic assessment tool that can help them with that. And then we will show them how to research those occupations so that when they do go to college, they're more solidified with, yes, this is the direction I want to go into. This is the career I want to study in college. So here's my story. Yep, that's my senior picture. I went in my senior year and I met with my guidance counselor, and when I walked in there, I still remember today, I walked in and Miss Nuss said, "Hi JD, how you doing?" And I said, "I'm great, thanks." And she said, "JD, you should be an art major. You're a great artist. You should be an art major. And then she says, next student come in. And that's about how much time I spent with my guidance counselor. And no offense to guidance counselors, most of them are overworked and overbooked. Well, I went home and I thought about it for all of about 37 seconds. And I thought, artists don't make any money. I've got to do something else. And there was a TV show on at that time, and maybe you guys remember the TV show. It was 30-something. And Gary and Elliot, they had an ad agency, beautiful office, beautiful house, all that stuff. And I said, I'll be a graphic designer. Also at that same time, I was talking with a friend of mine who was a freshman at Biola University in Los Angeles. I was talking with him on the phone, and he says, JD, you got to come to the school. It's so awesome. The girls here are so cute, and we have the most amazing beach bonfire parties. And they did. And I said, do they have a graphics department? And he says, yeah. And I said, dude, I'm in. And that's about how much thought went into me picking my career major in college and all that stuff. What ended up happening, and I highly recommend this for your student as well, is get an internship. Well, in my junior year, I got an internship at a graphics house. I really wish I would have gotten an internship early on, maybe my freshman year, because when I got that internship at that graphics house, I realized this isn't what I thought it was. I had a lot of preconceived ideas and all that stuff. And I thought, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. And I had to reset and all that other stuff. Okay? So again, what do we do at AZ College Planning is we're going to help your student identify careers, majors, and colleges so they don't end up being a 6-year statistic. All 3 of my kids graduated in 4 years or less. My middle daughter, she graduated in 3.5 years. And yeah, so let me tell you a story about Lynn. This is Lynn. And when Lynn and her dad came into the office, we had a conversation. And when you and your student come in for that free consultation, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, similar questions that I asked Lynn and her dad. And one of those questions is, do you have any dream schools? Do you, what colleges are you thinking about applying to, or what colleges have you applied to? And Dad piped up and said, she's going to NAU because that's all I can afford. And I said, let's play the game. And part of playing the game is applying to a handful of colleges. The worst thing that any student can do is apply to one college, because if that student applies to one college and is admitted to that one college, other than them saying, yes, you can come to our school, what else does that college have to do to get that student to go there? Nothing. Now, if that college has to compete with 3 or 4 or 5 other colleges, then that college must offer some form of incentive for that student to choose their school over the other colleges. And the incentives that we want are scholarships. So what I encourage students is to apply to 6 to 12 colleges. That's kind of the range. And Lynn applied to 7 colleges. Of the 7 colleges, she was admitted to 5 of those. 2 of them fell off the wayside for one reason or another. She did more research as I helped her identify these schools and showed her how to do the research on all these colleges. It came down to these 3 schools: Whitman College, Willamette University, and NAU. And in that process, I showed Lynn how to properly market herself to these colleges. We helped her with her application, we helped her with her essays, all of those things. And the first college that admitted her was Willamette University. And Willamette, back then, their sticker price was $50,000, and today they're hovering around $60,000. Lynn was offered $25,500 in scholarships per year, so Dad's net cost was about $20,000. Lynn was on cloud 9 for days. Dad, not quite so much. because he says we still got a $20,000 gap. The second school that admitted her was NAU, and NAU offered her $10,650, or I'm sorry, that was Dad's out-of-pocket cost was $10,650. Okay. Dad says, yeah, I can afford that. I'd rather not, but I could afford that one. The last college that admitted her was Whitman College. And Whitman offered her $40,750 in scholarships and grants each year. So if you do the math on that, $40,750 times 4 years, that's $163,000 in scholarships and grants that she was offered over the course of 4 years. And yes, she did get that each of the 4 years. She did have to maintain a minimum GPA in order to renew that scholarship package each year. What's amazing is that that scholarship package also included 2 study abroads. She did one in Peru and the other one in Japan. Dad's net cost per year was $5,000, way less than the cost of an in-state school. Why did they give her that amazing scholarship package? It's because that college needed her. She made a positive impact on one or more rankings that was valued by the college. As an example, she was a girl going to a mostly male-dominated major. Don't ask me which one. The college liked that, said, yes, we want that. Also, here we have an Arizona kid going to a college in the state of Washington, and they like that as well because now they can say, we have geographic diversity. We got kids from everywhere, here, there, Arizona, we got them all over the place. And that causes an upward trend in their rankings. The rankings are one of the most important things, if not the most important things, to a college. As an example of that, the University of California, Berkeley, last year they were rated the #1 public national university. And they had 110,000 students apply to their college, and it cost $70 to apply. So 110,000 times $70, if you do the math on that, that's $7.5 million that was generated just in application fees. So of course, University of California, Berkeley, they want to maintain their high rankings or move up their rankings in other categories, because when there is a positive upward trend in rankings, that attracts attention, and with more attention comes more applications and more application fees. So now you know some of the rules of the college game. And when we understand the rules of the college game, then we can position ourselves to win. And that's exactly what I helped Lynn do, was I showed her how to position herself to win and get that incredible scholarship package. So I mentioned a few slides ago that we're going to compare a couple schools. Here we've got ASU, and ASU's COA cost of attendance is $29,891. Now, if you're looking at the Honors College, Barrett, you can add a couple dollars on top of that. It's about $35,000, $36,000 to go to Barrett, the Honors College. But regular ASU is around $30,000. Now we have an EFC of $8,320. That's, again, the only variable tonight, but I do have a family that was their EFC, and we did some things strategically to get them to that number. So if we run the numbers and run the math on it, we have a need of $21,577. They're going to give us 61%. That's their historical giving pattern. ASU is not the most generous college. So we have a need of $13,162. Of that $13,000, what's the split on it? And it's almost 50-50. It's 53% gift aid and 47% self-help. So when we run the numbers on that, Gift aid is about $6,976 in scholarship and grants. And we have an upfront cost of $16,735 for 1 year at ASU. How did I get that $16,000? It's our EFC plus the unmet need equals that number. Now on the right-hand side, we've got Claremont McKenna in California. Their sticker price is $73,000. Our EFC is the same, $8,320. That EFC is going to be the same, a static number for that student for that year, regardless of whatever college the student applies to, whether it be ASU, whether it be Claremont, whether it be Stanford, whether it be Scottsdale Community College. That EFC number is going to be the same. And the EFC number is going to change from year to year. As your income goes up or down, the EFC will track that. So, going back to our slide here, Claremont, we have a need of $65,455. What percentage are they going to give us? And there are some colleges that say we meet 100% of your need and we'll give it to you all in loans. Thank you, but no thanks. Claremont McKenna happens to be one of the generous colleges. They're going to meet 100% of our needs, so we have 0 unmet need, and the split on it is 92% gift aid and 8% self-help. So they're going to give this student $60,218 in scholarship and grant, and $5,237 in the form of a loan or a work study or a combination of those things, for an upfront cost of $8,320. How did I get that number? That's our EFC of $8,320 plus our unmet need, 0, equals our upfront cost. So again, this particular college is very generous. They're also a very wealthy college. They have $500 million in their endowment funds. But is that upfront cost our true cost? No, there's one more number that needs to be added in there, and that is loans. And when you add that in there for ASU, our EFC plus our unmet need plus our loans is $22,921. And if we look at the same thing at Claremont, our EFC plus our unmet need plus our loans is $13,577. Now tell me which college is cheaper. Please don't throw out a college based solely on the sticker price until you've run all of these numbers. You're waiting for this one. The number one way to get more money is apply to 6 to 12 or 8 to 10 is kind of that sweet spot in the middle, and negotiate. Remember what I said earlier? When a student applies to one college, it's very difficult to negotiate with that college if there's nothing to negotiate with. Now, if that student applied to more than one school, then we can use other award letters from other colleges as a negotiation lever. Here's an example of that. I was speaking with Danielle. She was a high school sophomore at the time, and I asked her if she had visited any colleges. I said, go visit some colleges, because she had not visited any just yet. Go visit some colleges. Go visit ASU, go visit Grand Canyon, go visit Arizona Christian University. And she and her parents did a road trip and drove down to Tucson and visited U of A. Whoever the tour guide was and the recruiter was at U of A, they did a fabulous job, because she came back and said, that's the only school I want to go to. That school's amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to go there. When you visit a college, I just want to tell you this. When you visit a college and you walk away after visiting the college with the impression of, wow, that school's amazing, they did their job. Okay? If you don't walk away with that impression of, wow, I really want to go there, they did a bad job. That's their job, is to sell you on their school. And that's exactly what U of A did, is they sold Danielle, hey, our school's amazing, you got to come here. And she says to me, JD, I'm going to only apply that college. And I said, please apply to more than one school. She agreed. And she applied to a handful of schools. The short story of it is, we knew that she had the parameters to be admitted to U of A, and she was admitted. And U of A's original award package was $0. You want to come here, it's $30,000. And Dad called me up in a panic and says, I don't want to pay 30 grand. What do we do? I said, what other colleges was she admitted to, and what awards was she offered? And Dad said, oh, she was admitted at this school, and she got these scholarship dollars. I said, great. We're going to take that award letter from College B, and we're going to take it down to College A, University of Arizona, and go, College B gave me this much money, what can you do? Not only did they beat it, they also gave Danielle an iPad. They gave her an allowance to buy an iPad. Danielle was really excited about the iPad. Dad was more excited about the scholarship dollars. Okay, so the number one way to get more money is apply to a handful of colleges and negotiate with those colleges. So let me give you a couple examples. I helped McConnell with his applications. He was admitted to 9 colleges, got some really nice scholarship packages at all of the schools, and NYU offered him $65,820 in scholarships per year. His parents' net cost, $8,914. Why was he offered this scholarship package? Because NYU looked at him and said, yes, this student will make a positive impact on our rankings, and he is not applying as a theater major. If you look at the numbers at NYU, it's like 40% of the students who attend NYU are theater majors. And they looked at that at McConnell and said, we got way too many theater majors, but McConnell wants to study this other major. We like that. Let's entice him to come to our school and give him a great scholarship package. And they did. And now McConnell is in his junior year. He's received the same scholarship package for the last 3 years. And if he continues with his grades, he will get the same scholarship package next year, his final senior year. I love to ask this question, what's good? Good is getting admitted to college. What's better than that? Well, better than getting admitted to college would be getting a scholarship. What's better than a scholarship? Getting full tuition. When you talk to your friends and your friends tell you that they got a full ride at ASU, be very skeptical, because it is very rare, extremely rare, to get a true full ride at ASU. What they may be saying is they got full tuition, which is about $11,000, $12,000. I like that. What's better than getting full tuition? Getting a full ride. When I talk about a full ride, I mean that the only thing that mom and dad pay for is transportation to get the kid from home to the college and pizza money. Everything else is covered. Room and board, meal plan, tuition, 100% of everything is covered. That is a true full ride. What's better than a full ride? And the answer is getting paid to go to college. And this is what Rohit was offered. He was offered all tuition and mandatory fees for 4 years. He was offered a $4,000 per semester cash stipend. He was offered $1,500 per semester on-campus housing stipend. And if you add those together, that was $11,000. And if you subtract that from what his dorm cost, he was netting $3,000. What's better than getting full tuition and getting a full ride? getting paid to go to college. Yes, I have some students who are in that scenario where they're getting paid to go to college. Here's a couple more examples. Nicole was admitted to Wash U. She got $45,000 in scholarships, and she got this all 4 years. Parents net cost $11,000 per year. Bruce was admitted to Notre Dame. He was offered $51,000 in scholarships per year, and parents net cost was $13,000. When I was having a conversation with Bruce's dad, Dad said that he thought my tagline, "It could be cheaper to go to an out-of-state college than it was to go to an in-state school," was just a sales pitch until he actually saw it. It was less expensive for Bruce to go to this college than it was for him to attend ASU. And of course, he went to Notre Dame, had a great time there these last 4 years. He graduated last May and is now had a jump start on his career. We did the same thing with Bruce's sister. I'll show you hers in just a moment. But JD, are all of these students super brainiacs that have perfect GPAs and perfect test scores? Nope. Here is an example. I won't tell you her story, I won't tell you her name, but I will tell you her story. She had a 2.3 GPA, and she was admitted to Spring Hill in Mobile, Alabama, and they looked at her and said, yes, she will make a positive impact on our rankings in these other categories. Long story short, it was less expensive for her to attend Spring Hill than it would have been for her to go to ASU. I love this story about Tanner. When Tanner came into the office, I was creating a game plan for him and asking him questions. And Tanner says, "My dream is to fly jets for the Air Force. I am going to apply to the Air Force Academy. That's the only college I want to apply to." And I said, let's play the game. Please play the game. Apply to all of the military academies and all of the ROTC programs and have a backup plan. He agreed to all that. And we had several conversations. We had another meeting sometime later. And Tanner says, JD, I've been doing some research on the Air Force's website. And I noticed that the minimum ACT score was 25. I got a 26. What do you think? I said, Tanner, they're going to take your app and they're going to throw it in the trash because you're barely above the minimum. He said, really? I said, yep. You need to increase your test score. And we plugged him into my program, and we have a really fantastic program. It's called Beat the Test. We showed Tanner how to beat the test, how to beat the SAT, how to beat the ACT, etc. Because all of those tests are standardized tests, because they are a standardized test, they have to follow a pattern. And we showed Tanner how to identify the pattern within those tests. He did all that and walked away with a 29 ACT score, got admitted to the Merchant Marine Academy, and is now flying jets for the Air Force. I love to tell this story about Jonathan. When Jonathan came into the office, I helped him identify a bunch of schools, and one of those colleges was George Fox University, which is outside of Portland, Oregon. I showed him how to market, how to sell himself to those colleges. And the long story short is he was admitted to a bunch of schools, and it came down to his number one choice as being George Fox University. Well, in April of his senior year, Jonathan and his parents and I were talking about his award package at George Fox before he had to actually make a decision. And his parents said, we are willing to pay for college a certain amount, and anything above that, that's going to be on you, Jonathan, to earn that difference, whether it be scholarships or loans or whatever. And the original award package that Jonathan was offered was $5,000 less than what mom and dad were willing to offer. And Jonathan says, I've got an idea. What if I call the admissions department and tell them that I want to defer admission for 1 year, have them hold my spot, and I go get a job, save up $5,000, and then go to the school the next year. I said, what are you going to do? Go to school for, get a job for a year, save up $5,000, go to school the next year, take another year off, save up $5,000, and then leapfrog it and take 8 years to graduate? I'm like, no. Jonathan, here's what I would like you to do. I would like you to call the recruiter on the phone and ask him these questions. You know who the recruiter is, right? Now I'm asking him loaded questions because I already had instructed him how to find out who his recruiter is and how to develop rapport with that person. I said, call up the recruiter and say this. Thank you very much for admitting me, and I'm really excited to attend your college, and my mom and dad and I were talking, and they're willing to spend a certain dollar amount for college, but we're about $5,000 short. What can I do? And poof, magically another $5,000 appeared. And so that covered the amount that parents were willing to pay for college. Jonathan graduated in 4 years. So yes, we can negotiate with a college. Here's Adele. She's going to TCU. This is Bruce's sister. She was offered $216,000 in scholarships for 4 years. Here's Bruce again. He was offered a total of $204,000 in scholarships over 4 years. Here's another student, Cole. He was admitted to LA Tech, and he got 100% of tuition plus extra, and it was less expensive for him to go to this college than it would have been for him to go to an in-state school. I like to tell this story about Chad, and when Chad came into the office, I was having a conversation with Chad, and he says, Chad, I think you've got what it takes to be admitted to a school like Vanderbilt. And mom pulls me aside and says, please do not encourage him to apply to school like Vandy. And I said, let's play the game. Let's just play the game. And mom agreed, and Chad applied to Vandy and got admitted. And the reason why mom was so apprehensive about it is she said, yeah, he's got the ability to be admitted to a school like that, but we can't afford $60,000, $70,000 a year for him to go to that college. And I just don't have the heart to break his heart and say, I'm sorry, we can't afford that. And I said, let's play the game, please. Long story short, Chad was offered $231,000 in scholarships over 4 years, and mom and dad's net cost per year was about $6,000. Right after that, I got a really nice email from Chad's mom, okay, and a whole bunch of referrals too. McConnell, we talked about already. He's going to NYU over the course of the next, over the course of 4 years, including next year. He will be offered $263,000 in scholarships. I mentioned Nicole, $181,000. Here's another student going to TCU, and here's another student who graduated from NAU, and he graduated 100% debt-free. That's exactly where we want our students to start their lives, without that excessive student loan baggage. So you're next. If you do these things, follow the plan, do all the things that I'm coaching, there's a strong possibility that you will get into some great colleges and get some amazing scholarships. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that by doing things on purpose. Here's another example. I got a student who got admitted to U of A. She got a true full ride. She's going there without taking out any student loans. She graduated 100% debt-free. So when should we start? The earlier we start in the process, the better. We can start as early as 7th or 8th grade for some of the high ambitious, high academic 7th and 8th graders, or start as a freshman or a sophomore in high school. If you have a high school senior right now, we got to kick it into high gear. The window is open, but the window is going to start closing very, very soon. Within the next 3 months, that window is going to close for admission and for scholarship. So if you've got a senior, we got to kick it into high gear right now. If you got a junior, we got to also kick it into high gear and get things going as well. Okay. Here's a great Chinese proverb: the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So again, if you've got a senior, we want to plant that tree right now and get things moving with that. If that's your case, please do contact me right away. Send me an email. I'm going to give you my email in a couple slides to schedule a complimentary consultation to see where and how we can help you. Here's another example. Jared was offered $39,900 in scholarships per year to go to an out-of-state school, $159,000 over the course of the next 4 years. I want to help tell your student success story. So here's a couple tips. If you got a junior, because of this whole crazy pandemic stuff, look at doing some virtual volunteering. You can go online and just type in virtual volunteer and find a bunch of different things. Same thing with sophomores. You can look, as well as freshmen, look at doing some virtual volunteers and stuff. If you got a senior class of 21, do this now. Have your student reach out to each of the colleges that he or she's going to apply to and ask what are the new admission requirements. Because of this COVID thing, a lot of the test dates have been canceled, and there may be some different parameters that are required for these students to be admitted. I do know that MIT is dropping the SAT subject test requirements, but they are going to ask for mid-year transcripts. So seniors, it is very important for you to maintain or increase your grades over the course of your senior fall semester, and then of course finish up strong your entire senior year, because many of these colleges are going to ask for mid-year transcripts because test scores are something that they can't evaluate students on because the test dates have all been canceled and no scores are being submitted. So super important for seniors to maintain your grades. Do not get senioritis. Keep your grades high. So let me explain our process very briefly. We're going to meet with your student one-on-one and formulate a game plan as we move forward. In that initial meeting, the complementary meeting, I'm going to ask you and your student a whole bunch of questions, and we can schedule that meeting virtually or we can schedule it at my office. My office is located on Scottsdale Road, right by the McCormick Train Park. So 7025 North Scottsdale Road is where my office is located. If you want to come in and meet me face to face, or if you are more comfortable doing a virtual meeting, we can do either one of those. And during that time, I'm going to ask you and your student a bunch of questions, and I'm going to evaluate if I can help you. And if I can help you, I will offer an extension for you to become a client. And what I charge for my services is $39.97. I am very good at what I do. And when I take on a client, I know already in the back of my mind that if your student follows my plan, follows this path, they're going to reap 3, 4, or 5 times what my service fee is. So we'll do that with the one-on-one meetings. We'll also have a couple parent meetings, and the parent meetings will be more on talking about your financial numbers. I also host a variety of different classes. The Beat the Test class, I mentioned that already, how to study class. an essay class, a resume class, etc. So if you would like a complimentary college consultation, please send me an email and I will contact you to schedule this meeting. Please include your phone number and that you can be reached at during the day, and I'll reach out to you via phone, and we'll synchronize our calendars and figure out the best date for you and your student to come in either to the office or virtually. If anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat here. I'm not seeing any questions. And this is my email, jd@azcollegeplanning.com. Please tell your friends about AZ College Planning. I really do appreciate that. Again, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. So, again, I would really be excited to help students. I really do enjoy and love working with students, helping them on this path, getting them into college and earning some incredible scholarship packages. Thank you very much. Again, tell your friends about AZ College Planning, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.